don't.
Okay.
With Nico? Okay. Thank you.
This is the most current copy.
Yai, 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 yai. Yai, 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 yai. Yai, 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 yai. Yai, 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 yai. Yai, 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 yai. Yai, 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 yai. Yai, 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 yai.
Shana Tova. What a pleasure to be with you tonight on this one of the most holiest nights on the Jewish calendar. As we begin our service, we're going to turn to page 49. And I would like to ask Emmy Hutchinson to come forward, please. We're going to be at the top in the English on page 49.
Yes.
With the setting of this evening's sun, united with Jews of every place and time, we proclaim a new year of hope. May the light of the divine shine forth to lead us, to show us the good we must do, the harmony we must create. Let the fire we kindle be for us a warming flame whose brightness shows us the path of life.
You just light the candles and then I sing both.
Please rise as we light the candles. As we light the candles, you can think of the blessings. This whole past year might be too much. How about the blessings of just now? The blessing of standing here, moving from being out there, running around through the week, to being in here in this heightened sense of holiness as we bring in the new year together. I'm going to invite you to gather the light. And you can cover your eyes as we say the blessing.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu Lahadlik ner shel Shabbat v'shel Yom Tov.
Yasher Koach. That was beautiful. You may be seated. We're going to continue on page 18 with the cantor's recitation of Hineni.
Hineni he'ani mimas nirash v'nivchad mipakad nirash v'nivchad mipakad Yoshev Tailot Yisrael Bati Lamod Uchichanein lefanecha Uchichanein lefanecha Alamka Yisrael Asher Shalachoni Afalpi Shani Chadai Vagun Lechach Lachein Avakesh Mimcha Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Velohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Velohei Leah, Adonai, Adonai, El Rachum v'chanun, Elohei Yisrael, Shaddai, Hayom v'norah, Heyena, Matzliach darki, darki, Asher ani holech lamod olvakesh rachamim olai v'al sholchai Baruch atah shomei tefillah.
Amen. As we move into our service, I feel like it's important to set a little frame. And you don't know this about me because we've hardly even met yet. But I don't say anything that I don't need to hear. So I guess what I should say is I need to set a little frame for me. We are sitting here in this beautiful sanctuary, welcoming Shabbat, welcoming Rosh HaShanah. The sun is setting. It was a beautiful, beautiful day. If you got to be out today, you got to see that. The sun is gently setting. I feel the mood changing. We lit candles. We sang that was beautiful, Burl. Those blessings were beautiful. And Emmy read us a beautiful passage about moving into this super sacred time. And what Cantor Shir just did now is, as our Baal Tfilah, as our Shliach Tzibor, as the person who is going to really take our prayers and lift them up, he just prayed for the merit and the power to do that. It's very, very powerful, at least for me, when the cantor asks for that extra little something to be able to do his job well. We're going to turn now to page 51, and we're going to begin with just a very few, well, it's hardly any, passages that help us transition into this time. We're going to sing a little. We're going to say a few passages that relate specifically to Rosh HaShanah, and then we're going to go into the service. In case you didn't know that, we're not in the service yet. We're still warming up. When the sages who put together our prayer books imagined our service and laid them out, they knew that there is no way to go from running around all day long like maybe like a chicken without a head, trying to get everything done, especially on the eve of a holiday like this. For those of us who have full-time day jobs, for those of us who want to eat good food on Rosh Hashanah, for those of us who might be entertaining family members, there's no way to go from that to this without a transition. So these next couple pages are going to be a transition. And then we're going to go into the evening service, which, believe it or not, is the same evening service that traditionally observant Jews say almost every day of the week. And by almost every day of the week, I mean there's one little addition for Shabbat, but the rest of the service is exactly the same. If you were to walk into any traditionally observant synagogue any day of the week in the evening, this is the service they would be saying. And I'll explain that when we get a little bit closer. But for now, we're going to turn to page 51.
El Harim Me'ayin Yavo Ezri Me'im Adonai Osei Shamayim V'aretz Al Yitein Lamot Raglecha Hayanum Shomrecha Hine Lo Yanum V'lo Yishan Shomer Yisrael.
Let's read responsively at the toward the bottom of 51. In the twilight of the vanishing year, we lift up our hearts in thanksgiving.
Our souls are stirred by the memory of joy as the new year begins.
We were sustained by love and kindness, comforted in times of sorrow, found happiness in our homes and gladness with our friends. We lift up our hearts in thanksgiving as the new year begins.
As the new year begins, our spirits rise in grateful song.
But there were dreams that came to naught, and times when we refused to dream. These, with much regret, we now remember as the new year begins.
As the new year begins, contrition fills our thoughts.
Some of our days were dark with grief. Many a tear furrowed our cheeks. Alas, for the tender ties that were broken, we look back with sorrow as the new year begins.
As the new year begins, tears well up within us.
Yet we look ahead with hope, giving thanks for the daily miracle of renewal, for the promise of good to come. May this Rosh HaShanah, birthday of the world, be our day of rebirth into life and peace, serenity and safety as the new year begins.
As the new year begins, so is hope reborn with us.
B'chodesh hashvi'i be'echad lachodesh, yihiyeh lachen shabbaton, zichron truah mikra kodesh, kol melechet avodah lo ta'asu. In the 7th month, on the first day of the month, there shall be a sacred assembly, a cessation from work, a day of commemoration proclaimed by the sound of the shofar. Please rise if you are able. We're at the top of page 53.
תקעו בחודש שופר, בכסל היום חגנו, כי חוק לישראל לא ישפוט לאלוהי יעקב.
Sound the shofar when the new moon appears, at the turning of the year, at the returning of our solemn celebration. For this is a statute binding on Israel, an ordinance of the God of Jacob. Can you open the ark?
יהי רצון מלפניך, אדוני אלוהינו ואלוהי אבותינו, שתחדש עלינו וכל בית ישראל את השנה הזאת.
Yehi ratzon milfanecha Adonai Eloheinu ve'Elohei Avotenu, shetichadesh aleinu ve'al kol beit Yisrael et hashana hazot, shnat chameshet alafim ushva me'ot, v'shmonim ve'arba. L'chayim u'lishalom, l'sason u'lisimcha, l'shua u'nechama, v'nomar, Amen. May this new year, called 5,784, bring us and the whole house of Israel life and peace and joy and exaltation, redemption and comfort. Everybody, may this new year bring us life and peace, joy and exaltation, redemption and comfort. And we say, Amen. We're going to jump to page 54, I guess it's the next page, and remain standing for the call to prayer. I'm going to let you sit for a minute because I want to tell you again what's going on, a little frame. We just said the call to prayer. That means we are in the evening service. The evening service has a very specific order. We're going to first say a blessing about creation. We are grateful for the physical world we live in. It has cycles of day and night that are predictable, and this is definitely a blessing. Then we're going to say a prayer. If you look in your machzor, in your prayer book on page 55, it says revelation. I like to call it love. The word ahava means love. So what does revelation and love have to do with each other? You'll hear a little bit about this tomorrow during my talk, but when you love someone, you want them to reveal themselves to you, and you want to reveal yourself to them. Ahava, love, or revelation, is the part where the physical, like the physical of the world, kind of meshes with the spiritual. Love is definitely a spiritual event, feeling, occurrence. And then we're going to go into the Shema, which is the Jewish statement of faith. We believe that everything comes from one source. We call that source Adonai. We call that source God. But the truth is, it doesn't matter what you think that source is. If you're a human being living on this planet in the Western world, I'm sure you believe that everything comes from the same place, no matter what you call that place. Nature, the Big Bang, all the same place. And then we're going into a blessing for freedom. We are always free. Even if we're not free in our bodies or our life circumstances, we are always free in our minds to decide how we are going to encounter any given situation. Are we going to be, I like to say this to religious school students, are you going to be crabby or are you going to be nice? That is always your choice, no matter what's going on. And then we add in one more blessing for safety, which is an evening blessing. We ask God to keep us safe at night when it's dark and scary. That can be the physical night, or it can be the nighttime of the soul. We say another little reading for Shabbat, which is Vishamru. You might be familiar with it. And then we go into the Tefillah, which is a chance to have some silent time with your own prayers that we'll all begin together, and then you'll have some private time to daven on your own. For now, we're on page 54. I'm going to ask you to please rise again. And we're going to say this blessing in English responsively. Praised be the eternal God, ruler of the universe, whose word brings on the evening.
With wisdom you open heaven's gates. With understanding you make the ages pass and the seasons alternate.
Your will controls the stars as they travel through the sky.
Creator of day and night, you roll light away from darkness and darkness from light. You cause day to pass and bring on the night. O living and eternal God, rule us always to the end of time.
Blessed is the God whose word Baruch Atah Adonai Hama'ariv Aravim. We're going to continue in English with this blessing for revelation, or love, as I like to say. Unending is your love for your people, the house of Israel. Torah and mitzvot, laws and precepts have you taught us. Therefore, O God, when we lie down and when we rise up, we will meditate on your laws and rejoice in your Torah and mitzvot forever.
Day and night we will reflect on them, for they are our life and the length of our days. Oh, may your love never depart from our hearts. Blessed are you, O God. You love your people Israel.
Baruch Atah Adonai, Ohev Amo Yisrael. Turn to the next page. This is the Shema. Be seated.
V'yavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavecha u'b'chol nafshecha u'b'chol miodecha v'hayu hadvarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzavcha hayom al levavecha v'shinantam levanecha v'dibarta bam b'shivtecha b'veitecha uv'lechtecha v'derech uv'shachvecha uv'kumecha Ukishartam liot al yodecha, v'hayu letodafot beinenecha, uketavtam al mezuzot beitecha, ובשעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם.
Let's turn over to page 58. This is Michamocha. This is the blessing of redemption. God, thank you. You have made us free.
Kifada Adonai et Yaakov, ugalo miyad chazak mimenu, Baruch atah Adonai, Gal Yisrael. Ashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu l'shalom, v'hamidenu malkeinu l'chaim, u'faros aleinu sukat shalomecha, v'takanenu Beitza tova milefanecha, v'hoshienu l'man shamecha, v'agen ba'deinu, v'haser me'aleinu, Oyev dever v'cherem v'ral v'yagon v'haser satan milfaneinu Uv'tzel knafecha tastirenu, ki el shomarenu, umatzilenu atah, ki el melech chanun v'rachum. ופרוס עלינו סוכת שלומך, ברוך אתה אדוני, הפורש סוכת שלום עלינו ועל כל עמו ישראל ועל ירושלים, amen.
Blessed are you, O God, whose shelter of peace is spread over us, over all Israel, and over Jerusalem. We're going to flip now to page 29. We're about to say Vishamru, which is a passage in the Torah that says that we Israelites, we progeny of Israelites, we are required to keep Shabbat. And then we're going to go from there, we'll say a Chatzi Kaddish, which is like a divider in a service, and then we're going to go into the Tefillah. I want to say a word about Tefillah. The word Tefillah is a reflexive word that means to judge. When we say Tefillah, we are going inward. We are judging ourselves, not in a punitive, nasty kind of way, but in a kind of, how was my day today? Did I do my best? What do I still need? What can I be thankful for? What am I listening for when I listen to that still small voice deep inside? So we're going to start Tefillah together, which will be on page 30 when we get there. We'll start all together, but then there will be some silent time for you to pray your own prayers. I just want to let you know that's coming. For now, we're on page 29. We're going to say Vishamru.
ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ביני ובין בני ישראל אותי לעולם, אותי לעולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ, ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. וביום השביעי וביום השביעי שבת וינפש, שבת וינפש. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם.
We're at the bottom of 29.
יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה,
Amen.
בעלמא תברך חירותי, וימליך מלכותי, וחייך וביום איכון, וחיי דכל בית ישראל, בקולו ובזמן Vayimaru. Vayimaru. Yitbarach vayishtabach vayitpa'ar vayitramam vayitnaseh vayitadar vayitaleh vayitalal shamei dekudashah. La'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tushbachata v'nechemata damiran bialma vayimaru.
Please rise for tefillah on page 30.
Adonai sifatai tiftachu fi agita hilatecha. Eternal God, open my lips that my mouth may declare your glory. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu ve'Elohei Avotenu va'imotenu Elohei Avraham Elohei Yitzchak ve'Elohei Yaakov Elohei Sarah Elohei Rivka Elohei Leah ve'Elohei Rachel Ha'el Hagadol Hagibor V'hanorah El Elyon Gomel Chasadim Tovim V'konei HaKol V'zocher Chasdei Avot V'imahot Umevi Gaula Livnei V'neihem Loman Shemo u'Moshiach u'Magen. Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham, v'ezrat Sarah. Ata gibor leolam Adonai, Mechayeh hakol ata, Rav lo Hoshia, Michalkel chaim b'chesed, Mechayeh hakol b'rachamim rabim, Somech noflim v'fokei cholim, Umatir asurim, Umakayim emunato l'shenei afar, michamocha bial gvurot, umigdom elach, melech meimit umachayeh, umatzmiach Yeshua. Micha mocha al varachamim, zocher yetzurav l'chaim barachamim, v'ne'eman atah lahachayot hakol, baruch atah Adonai, Mechayeh hakol.
You are invited to continue with your own private prayers. They can be the prayers in your heart or the prayers in our machzor. The Amidah here ends on page 39, and there's another Amidah, another tefillah, with maybe more welcoming English language on pages 62 to 68. And when you're finished, you may be seated. Still davening, I invite you to continue at your own pace. We are going to continue with Cantor Shir on page 36, the first Hebrew paragraph.
Ritzei Adonai Eloheinu B'Amacha Yisrael Utafilatam B'Ahavati Kabeh Tehila Ratzon Tamid Avodat Israel Israel Amecha Karav lachol, karav panei el avadecha v'chanenu. Shafach ruchacha B'shuvacha l'Tzion. Barach Ami. Baruch atah Adonai Hamachazir Shachinato
Amen. We're going to continue on page 37 toward the bottom of the page. Shalom Rav.
Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Ki Atahu Melech Adon L'chol HaShalom V'tov B'necha Levarech et Amcha Yisrael Echol Letucha Sha'a Bishlomecha. L'chaim beracha v'shalom.
Beracha v'shalom ufranasa tova.
Beracha v'shalom. Yizacher v'yikatev lefanecha. Anachnu v'chol amcha beit Yisrael. L'chaim tovim u'shalom. Baruch atah Adonai oseh hashalom.
That was beautiful. We're going to continue on page 39 with the last lines in the Hebrew, Oseh Shalom. May God bring us peace.
Oseh shalom bimromav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu. Oseh shalom bimromav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu. Oseh shalom bimromav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu. Yaseh shalom, Yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu, v'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh shalom, Yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu, v'al kol Yisrael.
That was great. That was beautiful. I've never heard that melody before. I mean, I heard the choir practicing it, but that was new for me. We're going to go to Avinu Malkeinu, which is on page 40. This is a standing prayer. If you're able, I'm going to ask you to please rise.
We say the English, yes. Are we singing it? Yes. Yes.
We're going to say Avinu Malkeinu responsively. I'm going to say the Hebrew, you'll say the English. Avinu Malkeinu, Shema Kolenu.
Avinu Malkeinu, hear our voice.
Avinu Malkeinu, Chatanu Lefanecha.
Avinu Malkeinu, we have sinned against you.
Avinu Malkeinu, Chamol Aleinu Ve'al Olaleinu V'Tapenu.
Avinu Malkeinu, have compassion on us and on our children.
Avinu Malkeinu, Kale Dever V'Cherev V'Ra'av U'Me'aleinu.
make an end to all.
Avinu Malkeinu, Kale Kol Tsar Umastin Me'aleinu.
Avinu Malkeinu, make an end to all oppression.
Avinu Malkeinu, Kotvenu B'Sefer Chaim Tovim.
Avinu Malkeinu, inscribe us for blessing in the book
Avinu
of life.
Malkeinu, Chadesh Aleinu Shana Tova.
Avinu Malkeinu, let the new year be a good year for us.
Avinu Malkeinu, Harem Keren Yisrael Amecha.
Avinu Malkeinu, give strength to your people Israel.
Avinu Malkeinu, Chanenu Va'anenu, Ke'en Vanu Masim, Aseh Imanu Tzedaka V'Chesed V'Hoshienu.
King, be gracious and answer us, for we have little merit. Treat us generously and with kindness, and be our help. Avinu Malkeinu, Avinu Malkeinu, Avinu Malkeinu, Chaneinu Vaneinu, Ki ein banu masim. Aseh imanu, Aseh imanu, Aseh imanu, tzedaka v'chesed v'hoshienu. Aseh imanu, tzedaka v'chesed v'hoshienu. Avinu Malkeinu, Avinu, Aneinu, Aneinu, Chaneinu, Avinu Malkeinu, Chaneinu, Aneinu, Ki ein banu masim.
was beautiful. Avinu Malkeinu is one of the most dramatic prayers in our liturgy. And the melody that the last Avinu Malkeinu that we said, that the choir sang, that Carol and Julian just played, is so powerful. And to hear it set to really beautiful instruments, the voices and the violin and the viola, I think it is wow. I don't know about you, but I'm having trouble staying on this planet right now. I'd like to start our year off with a little story. There was once a shoemaker named Jacob who was unhappy with life. Nothing seemed to be right. He had to work much too hard for far too little. Neither his friends nor his neighbors gave him the respect he felt he deserved. His wife Sarah was always complaining, and his children Gittel and Moishe were never satisfied. On top of that, the sky was always so gray and it rained so much that it seemed like the mud never dried. Every day, Jacob prayed for things to get better. In addition to praying, he worked with a therapist. He met with the rabbi. He said affirmations. He took self-improvement courses and professional development courses. He worked with a professional coach. Jacob did everything he thought of to make his life better. For many years, he worked and he worked to make his life better. Despite his hopes and his efforts, Jacob's condition did not improve. So he began to spend most of his time dreaming about paradise. Whether alone or with others, whether at work or at rest, the idea of paradise filled his head. Someday, Jacob kept telling himself, someday I'm going to go to paradise. And one day, seemingly no different from any other, he decided this was the day he was going to set off for paradise. Jacob dressed carefully, but not so carefully, so as to arouse suspicion. He made his usual breakfast of of 2 eggs with toast and a cup of coffee. He even took his vitamins. When Jacob was done eating, he got up from the table. As was his way, he picked up his satchel, his work bag, and without saying a word to his wife and his 2 children, he went out the front door toward his workshop. But today, he did not go to his workshop. He walked down the front steps. He walked past the gate with a broken latch, past the pasture with the skinny cow, past the coop with the mangy chickens, and through the open fields until he came to the edge of the marketplace. Jacob stood for a few minutes watching, already aware of who would buy what goods from which merchants at what price and what they would argue about. He passed a bakery opposite a butcher shop, moved on through the center of the village with its synagogue and town hall, and continued out through another set of fields to the base of a long, steep hill. Jacob climbed the hill until he reached the beginning of a broad, flat plateau. There he paused and took one last look at his village below. He said goodbye in his head, exhilarated that he would never see it again. Jacob was a man bound for paradise. Jacob knew that the trip would be far, at least 2 days, he thought. He actually wasn't really sure. After all, he'd only ever heard of paradise he didn't know anyone who had actually been there, so he didn't know exactly how far it was. All day long, Jacob walked along that plateau, contemplating his trip, wondering if he would, in fact, miss his wife and children and his neighbors. When the sun began setting in the west, Jacob decided to take shelter under a tall, majestic pine tree. He carefully laid out his bedroll and ate the roast beef sandwich that he had packed in his work bag. Before going to sleep, he removed his shoes, and wise man that he was, he pointed them in the direction in which he was sure paradise lay. That way, he would be sure to follow the correct path when he woke up in the morning. While Jacob slept, unbeknownst to him, during the darkest hour of the night, a demon, an imp, came and took his shoes and flipped them around. We don't know if it did this to punish Jacob or to save him or to teach him a lesson. Maybe it was just to play a joke. There was no way for Jacob to know, though, when he woke up that his shoes had been moved or why. The next morning, Jacob rose early. So excited was he to get on his way to his destination. He put on his talit and tefillin and said the morning prayers. Then he stepped into his shoes, certain that they would lead him to paradise. Off he went, his head filled with dreams. He walked for most of the day along the plateau. Just a short time before sunset, Jacob found himself at the edge of the plateau. He looked down at the view. He was sure that he was looking at paradise. After traveling for 2 full days, he had finally arrived. But as he looked down at paradise, he had the strangest feeling. Everything looked so familiar. Strange, he thought. It's not much bigger than my own village. Jacob decided to spend the night on the plateau so as not to come to a new place right before needing to find a place to sleep. The next morning, Jacob descended the hill and walked through the fields toward the center of the village. It was amazing how much his village looked just like paradise. Right here is the tree with the broken branch from when the lightning struck, he said to himself. And then he noticed the broken down shack that used to be Yankala's house many years ago before he got rich and built a mansion. Jacob was astounded that just like his village, paradise had a building that looked exactly like his synagogue, and another building that looked exactly like the town hall. The marketplace was wild. He could swear that over there was Rivki bargaining over the price of eggs like she always does, and there was Hannah selling her very fine baked goods like she always does. But it couldn't have been because, well, he was in paradise. Why, paradise looked exactly like his village. How could that be, Jacob thought. I would have thought that paradise would be grand and shiny and rich. In paradise, there's no mud, and there's no arguing, and there are no run-down shacks or poor people or signs of suffering, and yet, here I am in paradise, and all those things seem to be here just the same as they were at home. But Jacob knew he couldn't be back in his old village. He knew, because for one thing, he followed his shoes, and they were pointing in exactly the direction of paradise when he put them on. And he especially knew, because even though this place looked like his village, he felt different. He felt light, free, easy. He was optimistic. For that reason alone, he knew that he was in paradise, because that is how it feels in paradise, right? And besides, even though everything looked the same, they weren't exactly the same. The buildings here were a little less shabby, the people a little less harsh. As Jacob walked on his way, taking his time to really examine the buildings and the streets that looked exactly like those at home, he was surprised by how friendly everybody was. "Hi, Jacob," said people over and over again as he walked past. For a moment, Jacob was puzzled that everyone seemed to know his name, but then he realized that, of course, in paradise, everyone knows your name. It's part of the reason paradise is so wonderful. Jacob walked on. He came to the butcher shop and the flower shop and the candy store. He was very curious. What would he find if he went to where his house was on the other side of the village? Is there another Sarah, another Moisha and Gittel? Would he meet the Jacob who lives here? Jacob eventually came to a field that looked a lot like his field. In the distance, he saw a cow that was almost as skinny and sad-looking as his cow. He came upon a chicken coop with chickens that were almost, but not quite, as mangy as his chickens. As Jacob was staring at the chickens, still quite amazed that paradise looked like his own home, a woman that looked a lot like Sarah began to call him. "Jacob, come in! I have a nice pot of soup waiting for you." Jacob came in and sat down at the table that looked a lot like his, right down to the place where he had accidentally nicked the table with a knife. He couldn't believe it. How is this possible? The soup that Paradise Sarah made was delicious. Jacob knew he was in paradise because his Sarah never made soup that good. And this paradise, Sarah was delightful. She seemed so kind and hardworking that Jacob, who lived here in paradise, was certainly lucky to be married to her. Jacob was curious about paradise Jacob, so after he finished his soup, he decided to stick around paradise until paradise Jacob came home. Well, afternoon became evening. Paradise Gittel and paradise Moisha came home from school. They were definitely not his children because they were so happy and seemed to get along so well. When they saw Jacob, they climbed right up into his lap and started playing with his beard. Eventually, Gittel said, "Papa, you're not going to go away again, are you? We missed you." Jacob supposed that paradise Jacob, who lives here, must have gone away on some sort of business trip or something. He saw how much the children liked him and heard the hope in Gittel's question that he decided to stay and pretend to be the children's father and Sarah's husband until their Jacob came home. To this day, Jacob is still living in paradise, happy as can be. Paradise Jacob's family, his wife Sarah and his children, Paradise Gittel and Paradise Moisha, were wonderful. He was surprised that he didn't know that he wasn't their Jacob, but if they didn't guess, he wasn't telling. He also found it much easier to earn a living here as a shoemaker. Somehow, his friends and neighbors were almost exactly like the people from home, except they were friendlier, nicer, easier to be with, and more accepting of Jacob. The weather seemed better too, not as gray or as rainy. As long as paradise Jacob is away, regular Jacob is happy to stay. He loves living in paradise. Something to think about in the beginning of this 5784. You all have a handout. We're going to go to page 2 on the handout.
trust in generations past and yet to be. May you live to see your word fulfilled. May your eyes shine with the light of holy words, and your face reflect the brightness of the heavens. May your lips ever speak wisdom, your fulfillment be in justice, even as you ever yearn to listen to the words of the holy ancient one of old. May you live to see your world fulfilled. May your destiny be for worlds still to come. May you trust in generations past and yet to be. May you live to see your world. May you live to see your world. May you live to see your world fulfilled.
We're going to turn to page 71 in our Machzor for Kiddush. And please rise if you're able.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei pori hagofen. Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar banu mikol am Romamanu mikol ashon vakidashanu b'mitzvotav vatiten lanu Adonai Eloheinu bi'ahava et yom haShabbat hazeh et yom hazikaron hazeh Yom Zichron Teruah Mikra'e Kodesh Zecher Litziat Mitzrayim Kivanu v'charta V'yotanu kidashta Mikol ha'amim U'davarcha emet v'kayam liad Baruch atah Adonai melech al kol haaretz Mikadesh Yisrael
Let's flip the page to Aleinu on page 72.
Aleinu l'shabeach ladon hakol, latei kedula yotzer breshit, shelo asanu kagoye haratzot, v'lo samanu k'mishpachot adama, shelo sam Chelkeinu kahem, v'gor aleinu kechol amona. V'anachnu korayim, u'mishtachavim u'modim.
Let's turn to your handout on page 11, and let's read this responsively. And then all that has divided us will merge. We're on page 11 in your handout. It's called the Merger Poem. And it expresses exactly what the Aleinu is about. The Aleinu, the prayer that we just said, is all about everyone coming together so that we can live together in peace. In Judaism, we say we're all going to believe in God, but the truth is it doesn't matter what you call your deity. It's all the same deity. It's all the same deity. And wouldn't it be amazing if we could just agree to live together in peace? Worshiping or not the same deity? Yeah. Let's read this responsively. And then all that has divided us will merge.
And then compassion will be led to power.
And then softness will come to a world that is harsh and unkind.
And all people will be gentle.
And then all people will be strong.
And then no person will be subject to another's will.
And then all will be rich and free and varied.
And then the greed of some will give way to the needs of many.
And then all will share equally in the earth's abundance. And then all will nourish the young. And then all will live in harmony with one another and the earth. And then everywhere will be called Eden once again. Turn in your Machzor to page 44. We're on the bottom paragraph.
Bayom hahu Yahyeh Adonai Echad.
That was beautiful. We turn our hearts and our attention now to people who are no longer with us. I'm going to say the names of the people who I know that we at Beth Israel, the West Temple, are saying Kaddish for this week, people whose yahrzeits we are observing this week. And then I'm going to track my eyes around the room and up to the camera. And when you see my eyes track toward you, you can say the name of anybody that you are either in a period of mourning for or observing a yahrzeit for. This week we are remembering Herman Mark, Nina Schwartz, Isidore Cantor, Harry Middleman, Margaret Lenker, John G. Ludwig, Shirley Newman, Minnie Jacobson, Laura Green Stout, Thelma Goldberg, Carmela Hendricks. Anybody else? Mourner's Kaddish Kaddish Yatom is on page 45. Please rise if you are able. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, Be'alma divra chirutei v'yamlich malchutei, B'chayechon uvyomechon uv'chaye dechol Beit Yisrael, Ba'agala uvizman kari v'imru Amen. Yehei Shmei Rabbah Mevorach Leolam Olmei Olmaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yitalev v'yitalal Shmei Dekudisha Brechu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata da'amiran be'alma v'imru Amen. Yehei Shlama Rabbah min Shemaya. V'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imru Amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imru Amen. May their memories always be a blessing. You may be seated.
Amen.
Time for announcements. Yes, okay, it's time for announcements. I'm very happy to invite Walter Wright, who has been sitting here the whole time, to come forward and tell us what we need to know. Tell us what we need to know.
Yasher Koach, that was beautiful. That was wonderful. I just wanted to thank everyone Members, guests, and friends, I'm the president of the congregation. It gives me great pleasure to have you here tonight. Rabbi Brown's first service with us during the High Holy Days. Thank you, Rabbi Brown.
Thank you for having me.
Dr. Koach. On behalf of the board, I want to thank all of those who have made this day a special one. I want to thank our clergy and our staff. I'd like to welcome Rabbi Brown and thank her for serving us as our rabbi. I'd also like to thank Debbie Chesson, our education director, and our volunteer teachers and education committee who work so hard to develop rich understanding of our traditions. I'd like to thank Pat Outlaw, our office manager, for all the collating, copying, and organizing, with much help from Renee Colazar. I'd like to thank Luis Fernandez and all the ushers, Mike Polnick, Aaron Chait, Chuck Levin, David Newman, Jenny Sedlak, and Karen McAleer. I'd like to thank Burl Polnick, our music director and flautist, along with our choir members and Sarah Bedrosian, accompanist. I'd like to thank Julian and Carol Ross. That was so beautiful. It adds so much to our celebration to enjoy the music of their strings. And I want to thank cantorial soloist Larry Shear, and also Michael Perry. The beautiful duet that you did was very powerful and moving. I want to thank Shashalt for reading, well, we haven't read Torah today. I would also like to thank our tech team, Deb Gerard, Luis Fernandez, Justin Morris, and Ed Rand. And thanks to our neighbor, St. Mel's, for helping us with parking. Finally, I'd like to thank all of us, our entire community, our members, our donors, volunteers, and board members. We, along with our guests, are participating in a powerful tradition, and in this we build community. And just to name the choir members, because I did not, Shashalt, Gloria Catrona, Misha Kesselman, Renee Colazar, Abby Labus, Scott McCall, Michael Perry, and Maureen Schoen. Thank you, everyone. Shabbat Shalom.
And thank you, Walter, for serving as our president.
Oh, you're welcome.
That is no easy task.
It's a blast.
It's a blast. Let's move toward a conclusion with Adon Olam on page 47. Please rise if you're able for the final benediction, or the closing benediction.
Yivarechecha Adonai, vayishmarecha. Amen.
May Adonai bless you and protect you.
Yoer Adonai panav elecha, Amen.
May Adonai's countenance shine on you, and may Adonai bestow kindness upon you.
Yiso Adonai panav elecha v'yosem lecha shalom. Amen.
May Adonai's countenance be lifted toward you, and may Adonai grant you peace. Shana Tova Umituka. May 5784 be a year of peace and light and love and joy.
Shana Tova.